After therapy and learning daily functions again, school was an obstacle I never dreamed of, and these resources helped me to finish my degree here in Lehman with honors.
Welcome to the Ask You Telling Our Story podcast. I am your host, Leticia Maldonado, a proud member of the post-secondary value team at the American Association of State Colleges and Universities. In this series, we share stories from state colleges and universities that have taken bold steps to successfully serve underrepresented students and their communities. As we speak with the experts who shape these programs, we will get an inside look on how they are fostering greater accessibility and affordability, closing completion gaps, and creating a more just and equitable society. Greetings to all of our listeners. Today, I am thrilled to bring you an inspiring conversation featuring Lehman College, located in the heart of the Bronx in New York City. So Lehman is accelerating students' paths to graduation and reducing the cost of tuition by transforming the way that students can earn credit with their Credit for Prior Learning initiative. Today, we're going to discuss how the program is being implemented and the real-life impact that it's having on students' lives. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our guest, Dr. Fernando Delgado, President of Lehman College, Dr. Richard Finger, Vice President for Enrollment Management at Lehman College, Alisa Cooper-Spain, Lehman's Credit for Prior Learning Coordinator, Luis Mendez, Lehman College alumnus, and Viridania Coyt, Lehman College alumna. Welcome to all of you to Telling Our Story.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
The pleasure is all mine. So I always like to start our podcast with setting the context for our listeners. Throughout the U.S., we have a variety of regional public universities. Some are in places like Silicon Valley, some are in urban areas, some are big, some are small. So Dr. Delgado, if you can just tell us a little bit about Lehman College, what would you like folks to know who are listening?
Oh, goodness. I suppose demographically, we're not quite 60 years old. We are an urban commuter school. We're part of the City University of New York system. We're a mid-size public comprehensive. We've got just approaching 14,000 students. We do everything from non-degree to the PhD. And we are designated as a Hispanic serving institution and a minority serving institution. And we're still about 72% female.
Oh, wow.
And we are the best bargain in New York City.
Yes. No, that is great. Thank you. Now, Lehman College is located in the Bronx. I know that that's a borough with a very rich cultural history and diversity, but also significant economic challenges. So how does the college see its role in uplifting the local community?
We're part of the fabric. I like to say that we're of the Bronx, for the Bronx, and by the Bronx. And so our job is to be a partner with our students for their success, which is why we're always in the top 10 or top 20, depending on the indices for social mobility for our graduates. But we're also cognizant of being an effective partner with community organizations, nonprofits, if you will, other lighthouse educational and cultural institutions in the Bronx. We work very closely and consult regularly with our elected officials to identify needs and places where we might make interventions, both through our vast pool of talent, but just through our academic program array and the activities that can happen beyond the campus. We think we're an essential asset to the Bronx and to students who want a high quality public education. And we work very hard on delivering on that promise.
One of the things that I read is that 50% of Lehman College's students are first generation. What does that mean to you as a president?
It means half of our students probably don't have the social networks or the social support that students at other schools would have as they think about navigating higher ed, as they try to navigate higher ed, as they run into challenges. It also means that we have to do some important work at various stages of their college development in terms of helping them understand the written and unwritten rules to navigate higher education and to be successful. And most recently, both for us and CUNY writ large, it means that we're spending a lot of time trying to create opportunities for our students to develop professional networks into particularly key industry sectors in New York City. So we are essentially walking a path with our students, recognizing that many of our students may not have the resources to walk that path with them.
Thank you. You're doing something really special at the college that is different. I think every higher education institution across the U.S. wants to know how they can accelerate graduation and really save students money. So I'm really excited to hear how the Credit for Prior Learning program works and how it's really setting students up to graduate sooner while reducing their student loan burden. So Alisa, I'm going to turn to you. And if you could just talk a little bit about what is Credit for Prior Learning, how it started, and anything that you can share about where the program started and where it is today.
Sure. Credit for Prior Learning at Lehman, also referred to as alternative credit pathways, which our students here today, they're probably more familiar with that term. It's been ingrained at Lehman for at least over 40 years now, right? With international baccalaureate credits, military service credits, CLEP exams, which are college level specific exams that students are awarded credit for, advanced placement. Those are all experiences that have always been honored for credit at Lehman. Really what we do is identify alternative pathways for students to complete their degree, both credit upon entry and while they're here and they're finding that they are short credits. These are all within a self-paced environment that fits students' schedules. A lot of our students need that type of flexibility, and it's beneficial to them because they're often juggling not only heavy academic workloads, but also family and work obligations. So the program provides alternative credit pathways to recognize not just formal coursework, but experience outside of the school on various credit earning platforms.
Yeah, and I'd maybe just add that I think the question that you asked Dr. Delgado about, how does it feel to be the president of an institution where 50% of our students are first generation factors into this. Do first generation students really understand the competencies that they have as they're entering college? So when we were looking at how do we redesign our approach to credit for prior learning, we realized that many students didn't realize that their language skills or their certifications that they've received through employment may have creditworthiness. So for us, we had to really rethink our approach to not only identify these credits upon entry when a student's admitted to the college, but also then to look differently at how to apply these credits while they're completing their degree at the college. So in some ways, as a student better understands themselves as a student and they're better prepared to advocate for themselves, we've created an environment that's more receptive to awarding credits along the way.
Thank you for that. How do students learn about the program?
So I would say that credit for prior learning, it's pretty ingrained in our campus culture here at Lehman. And specifically, we work with all of the offices who advise students on campus, academic advising, the Office of the Registrar and their graduation specialists, the SEEK program, First Year Initiative. So we educate all of those advising offices on what it is we're doing. And often we receive most of our student through referrals, through their advisement sessions.
And I think what's happened is that we've really taken an approach where we try to alleviate bottlenecks wherever possible in the student's degree path. And I think part of that is what's the common factors that prohibits a student from graduating? Are they missing a few open elective credits? Are they doing some really great internship work that's valid, that's creditworthy, but we don't have a pathway for that student to earn credits? Are they missing some liberal arts credits, which happens quite a bit in New York State? And we've leveraged this program to promote opportunities for students to earn credits to complete their degree when they've really satisfied all of the other remaining requirements to graduate. And I think that's where we've seen a lot of word of mouth growth among our faculty, among our advisors, and even the students sharing this information with one another.
Right. And this has also helped us identify more credit upon entry, like the New York Police Cadet Academy credits, New York State real estate license. So these are all opportunities that have come up in conversations in their advisement sessions. And we were able to look into them that, hey, these are credit earning opportunities as well that we could be providing our students with.
And it's important to note that we've abandoned one of the traditional philosophies regarding credit for prior learning, in that it's not just for adults. If we encourage lifelong learning and we encourage ongoing learning, and it's all competency driven, an 18-year-old or a 17-year-old or 16-year-old even can earn college credits via credit for prior learning in the same way that a 50 or 60-year-old can earn credits for prior learning. So that's been a very unique approach, and it's been really well received on our campus.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, in one of the calls that we had in preparation for today's podcast, you mentioned various components of the program, and one being the getting credit for prior experiences, but also the students that can get accelerated toward graduation through either Coursera courses and things like that. Do you mind speaking a little bit more about that, the difference between the two, and maybe other aspects of the program?
I'll take the first part of it. We were pioneers in the portfolio and credit for prior learning portfolios probably about 45 years ago. I think we trace it back to the late 70s, very early 80s. And that opportunity to earn credits for prior learning in that traditional portfolio was made available to students who were enrolled in our adult degree program, which is a program available to students who are over the age of 24 years old. Students opt in to be part of that program at the point of admission. And it generally has had about 1,000 students enrolled at any given time. But that always meant that about 80% of our undergraduate population was not eligible to earn credits in this way. So when we started to receive some funding from a program called Graduate NYC to look at accelerating degree completion in this way, that's when we really move into our current model.
That's when I started, right?
And that's when you started, yeah.
That's when I was brought in. So really, in about 2019, we started to look at what's called near completers, and that was students who were about 3, 9, maybe 12 credits short of finishing their degrees. And they were, what we thought, missing mostly elective credits or liberal arts credits. And we started to utilize those existing credit for prior learning options that we had, CLEP exams, looking in to see if they had advanced placement exams that they were never awarded credit for. But we realized there was a bigger need for more opportunities rather than just those two means for students there was more than two options to complete their credits. So we started working with our faculty and staff to identify what do we have, what should we be looking into. So we took a look at our FEMA credit into FEMA, which are Federal Emergency Management credits. And those were no-cost options for students to complete their degrees. And often they would gain relative work experience that not only awarded them credits, but they were good opportunities when they graduated to enhance their resumes and career building skills. We also, at that time, it was the pandemic. So we, go ahead.
I think COVID really became the game changer.
Yeah, it really did.
Unfortunately, but COVID became the game changer in that we had a lot of, obviously we all had unknowns, but particularly on the unknowns here in the Bronx where the pandemic first reported, 2 miles from the campus. Our students, many students lost their jobs. Really the need of our students grew exponentially. And there became this opportunity for COVID tracer jobs. I think, I hate to rehash this, but.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that. I'm a former DINA student, and I definitely remember those days.
Yeah. So when these COVID tracer jobs became available, we worked with our faculty to identify 3 training programs that were required for everybody who was applying for these positions. And we decided to award 1 credit for completing those three trainings. And we actively started to promote it to students, particularly as we were coming out of that first spring semester into the summer. And we did it for 2 purposes, really. 3 purposes. One was to earn the credit, which was probably the least important element of it at that point. The second was to give the students a career readiness credential. But then the third was really to continue their academic experience so that way they would return in the fall, regardless of what challenges they were facing otherwise. And that really lit up the faculty in starting to look at new ways to award credits, to think differently. And for us, it meant, thousands of credentials, right? Well over 1,000 credentials.
Yes.
Just from that one initiative.
It helped students for so many reasons. It really did. They were excited to come when they were returning to school in their regular schedule. They kept that momentum going, too, by completing those certifications. But it really caught on. And again, I think it did excite faculty. And after that, we started working with the School of Business. And that's really when we started to look into the Coursera platform.
Yeah, and the School of Business has really taken this as their main approach. We have the only School of Business at CUNY right now that's deeply embedded in experiential learning. We're looking at some of the models that you could compare us to a lighter version at the moment of Northeastern and Bentley and other schools that are really embracing experiential learning. So they've really run with this model.
I love that. It sounds like it was a very collaborative process. It sounds like faculty are involved, staff are involved, really hearing from students what were some of the challenges that you were really listening to that as well. So that's great. One of the things that also stands out to me is the fact that you were a pioneer in this area. And I think oftentimes being the first can be really scary for institutions. I remember, as an administrator, oftentimes when an idea was introduced, it was like, well, let's first see who else has done it. And if others have done it and it's worked, let's jump in. But very few times have I heard folks be like, you know what, let's just be the first. Let's figure this out. And the benefits to our students outweigh the fear and the risk. So what were some of those conversations like about being the first or one of the first in this area?
I think that the reputation of Lehman College is that we're often the first. I don't think we're afraid to try new things. I don't think we're afraid to engage the faculty, our staff, our administrators, and our students all support one another. It's a really collaborative, supportive environment here. So I don't think there was fear as much as there was need. And when there's need on this campus, the campus tends to rally around solving whatever issue there is at hand, whether it be the pandemic or whether it be us identifying students who are in jeopardy of perhaps losing eligibility for a state aid program where earning a couple of credits can help them, whether it be a department that is realizing the value in a credential and wants to award credit for it for the students that are earning that credential en route to their degree. I think we've taken this need-based approach, but I don't think that's dissimilar to how we handle many other situations on campus.
And I think it's also generated a lot of excitement in the CUNY community in general. We have a lot of CUNY institutions reaching out to us to provide them some training and guidance on the opportunities that we're awarding credits. And now those institutions are starting to take them on also. So I think that not so much a fear either. I wouldn't use that word, but it has created a lot of excitement within our institution and with other CUNY institutions as well.
Oh, that's great. What I'm taking from that, especially for institutions that are listening in and hearing this conversation, is that really the need outweighed significantly any potential fear of whether this would work or not. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
I think, if I may, just one quick point. And I think that we embrace the research on credit for prior learning. I think a lot of institutions are a bit gun-shy that there's revenue loss that stems from over-awarding or awarding too many credit for prior learning credentials or credits, whereas all of the research points to the fact that if you're liberal with credit for prior learning for valid experiences, that at the end of the day, you're ending up collecting more net tuition too. And I think we've really embraced that, particularly in cases, and there's so many of them, where a student could not afford to graduate otherwise unless they earned a couple of credits. I think that becomes a real Lehman College success story. It helps that student leverage that credential for the rest of their life. And I think that's a big part of this too.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. I didn't realize that piece, so I appreciate you adding it. Now, I want to turn to you, Luis and Viri. I also had an opportunity to speak to the two of you before today, and you both have such an inspiring story of how this program really supported the two of you, but also your own stories as students and everything you've been through to get to today. You both graduated in the fall, which, by the way, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're officially alumni. But I want to hear from each of you, and I'm going to start with you, Vidi, and then you, Luis, if you can follow Vidi. How did you first learn about the program, and what motivated you to participate?
Well, as Ms. Alisa said, I learned about the alternative credit option through the adult degree program. I had stalled a little bit in my journey through education after taking a full-time job. So I didn't fully finish my associates. But when I was able to finish it, I was like, okay, I need to, get it together and figure out a way to get my bachelor's because I do want a doctorate, and we'll get a little bit into that as we, talk later on. But yeah, I learned about it through the adult degree program. I came in, I was talking to the director, and she brought up this as an option for me because, well, one, I also stalled because of the financial need. So I was taking classes maybe not full time, but part time because I was working to be able to afford to go to school. And I had a goal in mind, and I spoke to a few people at Lehman who brought me to these both incredible programs. And I was just really lucky and blessed to be able to, be part of this.
So I as well, I learned through these two resources through the adult degree program with my advisor Hikania Gomez. She enlightened me to the CLEP exam and also the Coursera courses. When I reached 114 credits, I needed 6 more to graduate, and I'm thankful that I was able to complete those 2 courses. Also, I'm thankful for Alisa Cooper, who also confirmed those credits and allowed me to graduate in time.
That's great. Now, what challenges did you face before joining the program, and how has this program helped you overcome them? So I'll start with you, Luis.
Okay, challenges. So, due to a TBI, after a gunshot through my brain, after therapy and learning daily functions again, school was an obstacle I never dreamed of. And these resources helped me to finish my degree here in Lehman with honors.
You mentioned TBI. What is TBI for folks who may not know?
Traumatic brain injury. When I started as a scholar in BCC, Bronx Community College, I was a scholar who was able-bodied, able to walk properly, function just like every other student. And when I started in Lehman, I had to start in Lehman as a scholar who is now disabled, walking with a cane, needing assistance, help with a book bag opening, zipping up my coats, and it was very challenging. And sometimes, as a student, I know other students who are disabled as well might feel like they wanted to give up, like I did. And but I don't have that type of mindset. I was like, I'm gonna start this, I'm gonna finish, and I thank God that I completed my bachelor's here, but it's not my last degree.
I love that. Thank you. Now, I have a quote from you from our conversation. You said, nothing matters in terms of circumstances that you're facing. Nothing is impossible.
Right.
What did you mean by that?
So life just comes, we get these twists and turns that we never expect, and we just have to learn to adjust and continue striving and reach our goals and excel in life. Like I was, like I mentioned, I wasn't born disabled, and now I had to adjust and learn how to push forward. And it's not easy, but it's possible with God and these resources and people to help you, assist and advocate and just show you new things. Networking, all these things make it possible to excel in life. And I'm just happy to, like I said, be here again and move forward and strive for better.
Viridiana?
So, as a DACA recipient who isn't really qualified for financial aid, and growing up in an immigrant household where my parents take on most of the financial burden, not only for myself and my 2 younger brothers, but also my grandfather, I didn't really want to put the burden of them completing or paying for my education after they had already done so for my associates. I saw the amount of stress it took on them, and even though they did it willingly and wholeheartedly, I wanted to take some of that responsibility off their shoulders and bear some of it myself. But I also didn't want to go into like more financial debt. I was lucky enough that I graduated without financial debt because I was able to do that. And again, that was thanks to the adult degree program and the credit for prior learning program. I honestly saved almost $7,000, which, as Richard said, he talked a little bit about how it gives more net. Even though it saves the students money, it does give the institution back more money. I think I myself am an example of that because I was able to save through these alternative credit options so that I could apply for my master's at Lehman, which I will be starting in the fall. So that money that I saved for those credits is going to get me into my master's and eventually into my doctorate. And yeah, those were pretty hardships to go through. Money is an obstacle for a lot of students, and some of us don't have the resources. Since my early education, I was able to get a lot of scholarships, or I qualified and was granted scholarships. But when it came out to fill out, your social security number and all these things that back then I didn't have because there wasn't any DACA, I lost a lot of that financial support. And this was honestly, truly a great, it was really great for me.
Yes, I will also want to add on to that. I was one of those students born and raised in the Bronx, New York. I've been living here 31 years. I was one of those students with a fixed mindset that school's boring. I never liked school, to be very honest with you. And college was never a goal or a dream of mine, especially after my TBI injury. Like mentioned to you last time we spoke, I'm just happy and blessed to be here. And I'm overwhelmed with these obstacles that God has allowed me to overcome. I'm thankful for these resources. I was thankful to graduate in time. I didn't have to take an extra semester. And I maxed out my financial aid and I had no more money to continue my education, and thank God for this resource. I was able to finish.
Thank you for sharing. Now, as I mentioned previously, you both officially graduated in fall of 2024. What does it mean to the two of you and to your families? I know, Luis, your mom is in the studio today. I'm sure she's a proud mom. Vidi, what does it also mean to you and your family to know that you've graduated and everything that you've overcome, as well as what's next?
Honestly, sometimes, while you're going through the motion and trying to get it done, you don't really realize how much you actually have accomplished. That immigrant mindset comes in where you always have to do more, to be more, to improve more, to even be seen as a regular person who doesn't have the need to explain their immigration status. I think that a lot of the time imposter syndrome kicks in. But it wasn't too long ago that I put up my diplomas in the living room, and it was just really, really cool to see how proud my mom was to see them, and how as soon as my siblings walked in, they were like, "Oh, you put your diploma, those are yours." And I was like, "Yeah, those are mine." And they're like, "Great, we're gonna fill mom's wall up with more." Right now they're in college in their first semester. So just being able to be an example to my siblings and to show them that, like, I did it and they can too. And that means a lot, right? Because for us to be good leaders, we have to show those examples. And so I'm really just honored and grateful to be able to do that and live, I guess, my truth, but also what I want to continue doing with my life, which is, enabling other people to find resources and empower them to be the best that they can be, so that we can improve the communities that we live in. Which is why I'm doing my master's in organizational leadership at Lehman, and hopefully my doctorates as well.
That's so exciting. Luis?
I as well, and I'm hoping to apply for the MSW here and hopefully get accepted so I can help communities and mostly youth who are undecisive of what they want to do in life and hopefully point them in the right direction to come to Lehman and enjoy these resources as well here and excel in life.
Luis, you also mentioned something similar to Viri during our conversation about what it meant to you for your brothers to know that you have a college degree.
Yes, so I'm the oldest out of three siblings. My younger brother and my younger sister both graduated here from Lehman. One is a nurse in Jacoby Hospital. The other is a speech pathologist, and they're helping their communities and students as well. And I know they're happy at me because even though I was the last one, as the oldest, I've overcome. I had to learn how to talk again, walk again, just a lot of therapy and nursing homes and hospitals. And I'm just thankful to say that I have a bachelor's degree and I'm going to move on in life.
That's right. My next question is for you, President Delgado, Dr. Finger, and Alisa. What does it feel like to you to hear the impact that this program has had on students? What does it feel like to hear Viri and Luis's story?
I mean, it's a powerful story. It's a common story in the sense that our students come here with multiple challenges. Oftentimes are the students that arguably higher education forgot. And they find themselves in the right space with the right academic advisors, academic support, surrounded largely by a group of really top-notch and committed faculty. And suddenly they're able to take off. And it is a gentle reminder, each of them, their successes, of why we show up each day. So I don't want to make too much of it. But when I say we're a mission-driven institution, I mean we're a mission-driven institution. Our people are on a mission. And that mission is to uplift the people in the communities that live in the Bronx. And everybody here enjoys that work, I think. And I think everybody takes it very seriously. And to Dr. Finger's point earlier, that's why we can collaborate, right? When you hold that mission sacred, when you focus on the students, it doesn't make every conversation easier, but it gives every conversation a common touchstone. And I think we can move from A to B to C in terms of idea to implementation faster, even as we're doing it collaboratively, because we have that common touchstone of being mission driven.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just to add, I think about just what was said a few minutes ago. So right in this room, in two families, we have a nurse, a speech pathologist, a future social worker, and someone who's going to study leadership at very high levels. Well, if you look at every urban center in America, what's lacking? Health professionals, clinicians to help people get the resources that they need, and strong leadership. And I think that's a big piece of what we do here at Lehman. And this program enabled two individuals to move forward in that path. And I think there's countless examples of that if we were to look at who graduated and where they moved on from the program. And it's because of the fact, to Dr. Delgado's point, the idea that we are a mission-driven institution.
I feel so lucky and inspired to work with students like Luis and Viri every day. I am truly passionate about this type of work. I'm excited. I think, Richard, I share a story with you a couple of times a week. Just really how lucky I am to be a part of these journeys in any way. And students like Viri and Luis continue to inspire the work that we're doing here to find other pathways and opportunities for students to complete their degrees and move on to successful careers. And our work is really done with intention here. These opportunities that we create and work with faculty and staff, they're chosen with intention and integrity, and really to complement a lot of the coursework that the students are doing. And, we hope students leave feeling that they've gained a valuable experience using these types of platforms to complete their degrees. And just even Luis talking to your mom today just really inspired me to continue my passion for this type of work. So thank you. And Viri, you as well. Your story has just been amazing. And I know you're going to go on to do many great things.
We
Thank
thank you
you.
guys also.
I would just like to also, add and maybe speak for myself and Luis and all of the other students who've gone through these programs and done these things. Like, we couldn't have done it without the things that you guys have done together through your teamwork and desire to want your students to succeed. I felt it in every conversation that I had with Ms. Ikaina Gomez and with you, Alisa, as well. Every email, every phone call, the intention and the mission and the push was there. There came a point where I kind of wanted to give up because I'm not a math person. I'm a communications major, so I have associates in communications and bachelor's in comms, and math was always a struggle for me. And going through some of the alternative credit options, my only option, well, not my only, but one of the options that I needed was something in math. And I emailed Ms. Ikaina and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I might not be able to. I might just have to do the class. And she was like, no, you got to work harder. You got to work smarter. You got this. And, I sat there and I completed 16 credits in a month in order to be able to graduate in the fall. So yeah, thank you all so much for the work that you do. Trust that it is seen and felt.
Yeah, I just want to thank both of them for these resources, and me as well. I was struggling hours sitting on the computer, not even eating, skipping meals just to complete these credits in order to graduate on time. I wanted to graduate in full in December of fall, and I was able to do that. Thank God.
Thank you, Luis. Going back to Dr. Finger and Dr. Delgado. So this is a two-part question. One is, what do you think has been what I call the secret sauce to the success of this program? And then also, what have been some of the challenges that you've faced in getting buy-in, either from faculty or other stakeholders, on this non-traditional approach to earning credits?
I don't know. Was there secret sauce? Didn't seem like there's anything secret about it.
I think I told you we weren't sharing our recipe today.
Oh, that's right. You did say that.
I'll say this. If I can add one little piece here, I think it's important, is that too often we view credit for prior learning as a marketing scheme. And it's not that. And you shouldn't build your foundation of a strong credit for prior learning program, or whatever you're going to call it, around the idea of marketing just to attract students. If we embrace the idea of lifelong learning and we embrace the idea that individuals may take some time to realize their own competencies that they have, it really is a student success strategy. And I think that's the approach that we've taken here, is leveraging credit for prior learning as a student success strategy, as opposed to viewing it as a simple marketing scheme.
Can I disagree with Dr. Finger just a little bit? Because he's right. But if you take what he just said in the macro, what we then have is a brand experience of Lehman that we're focused on student success. And we're focused on a multifaceted approach, I'm going to say almost customizable to our students, to help them be successful. And so while we may not have a CPL brand, we do have a student success brand. That's what we're known for. And I think that attracts students who need that support and who want that support. I think that attracts employees who want to work in that environment where student success is top of the list. And it's a self-perpetuating experience then, because we have students who come to us looking for that support to get success, because we have faculty and staff who are committed to success. What does it force us to do? Look for more opportunities, more strategies to build even more success. And so that once that gets going and that momentum stays constant, it does make each next conversation, I'm going to say relatively easy, because A, we already know that we can do these things. We already know that they work. We have data that shows that. We already know that it's part of our mission. So there's a lot of clutter that can get in the way as you discuss these kinds of programs or onboarding new programs that is marginalized very quickly, because in a lot of cases, we've already asked and answered those questions. And so then the question is, Dr. Finger, you're in charge of enrollment management. What's the next set of strategies? Well, me and my team have been thinking about X, Y, and Z. And the conversation goes very quickly to what is it? Why do you think it'll work? How will it get implemented? As opposed to staying on first principles, should we or shouldn't we do that? We already do that in so many ways. So then the question is, what is the next approach to help the next set of challenges for our students so that we can maintain our standards and at the same time help these students be successful in a timely fashion?
Now that you mentioned maintaining standards, I do have a question. How do you respond to folks who may be concerned about academic rigor? How do you respond to the question of how do you ensure that these credits are academically rigorous and that align with students' degree requirements?
So our faculty, they're evaluating these experiences. These are not, options that are just coming to me at my desk and I'm looking at, oh, yes, we could give credit for this. Our faculty maintains the integrity of what the credit should be awarded for here at Lehman College. And, sometimes an opportunity will come their way and it just does not make sense to award credit for it. There really is a very strong evaluation process that was faculty led. A lot of, right? Would you say that, Richard? Like they were very involved in what criteria.
Yeah, and we don't necessarily accept what other accrediting bodies have offered. We accept what's right for our institution.
I'm curious to understand, does the program lie under the Office of the Provost or Student Affairs? Is it a combination of both? Where is it at organizationally?
The program lies in the Division of Enrollment Management, but our Division of Enrollment Management is probably about 50% academic affairs areas, traditional academic affairs areas. So it reports to me, and it really, I'm not even going to exaggerate. It really started as a pet project that I wanted to see what would happen if we took this approach and we received some funding. And 6, 7 years into this now, 8 years into this work, we have continued to receive funding and people supporting this work that we're doing because people see the value in it. So it does sit in the Division of Enrollment Management. It actually, alongside offices like admissions and financial aid and the registrar, reports directly to me. It's something I'm very, very much involved in.
The reason why I ask is because, we have been collecting promising practices from various member institutions. Clearly, this is a promising practice that we had the opportunity to collect from Lehman. But one of the things that I've noticed in speaking to so many different campuses about, what's really making it work, and I've noticed without a doubt that the most successful programs are the ones that have a really strong partnership between academic affairs and student affairs, or when a program is 50-50, where the VPSA and the provost are working really closely together to execute a program. And so I was just really curious because I hear that there's quite a bit of faculty engagement, involvement. And so I was trying to get a sense of if that was structural or if this was more from your initiative to ensure that there is collaboration across the campus to ensure that this program is successful.
I mean, I think it's cultural. I probably spend half the day with the provost in some way, shape, or form, whether we're in meetings together or this morning we met up in the parking lot and we walked over and had coffee this morning to talk about a couple of things that are going on. I think that's the culture of the institution, is a culture of collaboration. And if you have that level of collaboration, then you're just going to naturally collaborate throughout the course of the day.
Yeah, I want to echo what Richard said. And any cabinet goes through changes, but one of the strong components of the cabinet we have now is, irrespective of the division, we all know that it takes more than one division to help a student be successful here. And we have a group of cabinet leaders who are not only very collaborative with one each other, but expect that of their teams. And so we always have silos in higher ed. That's the thing that maybe we're the best at. But the permeability of our silos here at Lehman is truly uncommon, and the work that our vice presidents do across other divisions. And Richard does a lot of work directly with department chairs. Richard's staff works directly with faculty, and they have that latitude to reach into and have discussions with the faculty because there is that level of collaboration, and embedded in that is trust amongst the cabinet members. And I think if there was a best practice to cultivate at other institutions, it would be to build on that collaboration. I mean, just think of your average student at any of our public regional universities. How many risk factors does an average student have, right? Are they first generation? Are they underrepresented? Are they low income? Did they come in as a transfer student? Are they a veteran? You could go through all of the sort of typical factors that we associate with challenges, and then tell me if any one division or any one office by itself can overcome all of those challenges with that student and help them be successful. The reality is there really isn't an office that big, that omnipotent. So it requires a great deal of collaboration and cohesion, right? I mean, it takes a team sometimes to help our students succeed. And I'm appreciative that our VPs, but also our deans and directors get that here. And it goes back to the mission. What's the mission? To help our students succeed. How do we do it? All together.
I love that. I think that's a great transition to my next and final question. And that is, what are your final thoughts? We could start with you, Luis.
Okay, I just wanted to say that as we navigate through these ups and downs of our academic journeys as scholars coming out of the Bronx, we often forget that the trajectory of our stories is something we have the power to shape. By never giving up and using these resources, with God, anything is possible. I'm living proof of that.
Thank you. Viri?
I would love that students who aren't dorming to look into a lot of the resources that the schools have, because I feel like as commuter students in the, city schools where a lot of the students are working full time, don't really get involved in extracurricular activities at colleges. I think that they really need to look into these additional resources, because there are things there that they may not be aware of that could really enable them to continue their journey, and also propel them and empower them to do better than they think they could be doing. I think they just need to take the time to go through the school website or talk to an advisor and really get to know all of these resources, because they're there for a reason. And I think more students need to take advantage of it.
If I could piggyback really quick, I want to thank President Delgado, Dr. Alisa Cooper for taking out the time to come in this podcast with us.
Thank you, Luis.
This just excites me, I'm happy to be in the room with all of you today, but especially with, two of the students that I've worked with, because you really drive my passion for this, and just to create more opportunities that can benefit students with all different needs and backgrounds, that we get the opportunity to work with.
I think that ASCU has done a lot for Lehman. We've been part of their Frontier Set. We've been part of their student success, and we continue to be part of the Student Success Equity Initiative, among other things. And I think that this opportunity to share our story hopefully will help other ASCU schools and other schools around the country that are trying to think differently on this topic.
Let me point out something to my fellow presidents if they happen to be listening. So right now we have two obvious tentpoles in higher education. And on the one end is the traditional 120 credit hours, X number of hours of seat time per credit hour, face-to-face instruction. And that's how you get a degree. And that's fine. I got my degree that way. Seemed to work for me. But over the last 10 years, we've also seen in places like Western Governors and the University of Wisconsin system, these online degrees that are asynchronous and that are really outcomes-based, not seat time-based. And those degree programs have been accredited by the Higher Learning Commission. There's a few out here in the Northeast by the Middle States. There's some out in the West that are accredited by WASC. So there are legitimate kinds of ways of getting a degree that aren't about a set number of hours per set course sitting. So we know those exist. If you listen to my two colleagues, all they're saying is they're figuring out how to exploit that space in between those two tent poles. That's all they're doing. And so if you see it that way, as less revolutionary and more as a creative, innovative way to take existing practices that have over the last decade emerged and somehow been seen as opposite, but instead seen them as connected at their ends, you can do creative stuff within that space that has already been legitimated, not just by Lehman, but by other institutions in other ways. I think we happen to do it better than most. I think we tend to spend a lot more time thinking about what next, but we're operating in a pretty mainstream space. It's just, I think most of us aren't used to operating that way. But ironically, we are more used to operating in the bimodal way of going to the absolute extremes, right? Synchronous face-to-face credit by hour learning versus asynchronous online credit by objective or credit by course goal learning. But if you blend features of both, you're able to help students in new and innovative ways, irrespective of what end of the spectrum of their academic pathway they happen to be on, particularly at the undergraduate level. So my encouragement to my fellow presidents is don't be afraid to step into this space, but step in as a team. You know, to Dr. Finger's point, don't step in because you want a bumper sticker or you want a tagline. Step in because it makes sense for your institution and how it wants to support student success.
Thank all of you for being here today. It has been such a pleasure. I have so many takeaways. I think I heard a lot about working in collaboration, about assessing need over fear, about really putting student needs at the forefront of your work, being mission-driven as an institution. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and for being part of today. This has been the Ask You Telling Our Story podcast. As we continue this series, we will share more stories from Ask You and its members who have taken bold steps to successfully support underserved students and their communities. Please get the word out about this important work by sharing this podcast with colleagues, teachers, students, family, and friends. It's available on Spotify, Apple, and many other podcast platforms. If you are an Ask You member with a promising practice you wish to share, please visit us at askyoutellingourstory.org. Thank you for listening. Until next time.